Well, today being May the 4th, and with so many people writing in telling me I needed to watch Maul, Shadow Lord, what better time for us to do a review of the entire series than today when the series finale dropped? It's Star Wars Day. Let's talk about it. So, let me give you a little bit of context here. I have not started watching Maul, Shadow Lord until just a few days ago because, to be honest, wasn't interested in it. I love the Darth Maul character, and I love Sam Witwer, who brilliantly does the voice of Darth Maul and others in the Star Wars universe. But to me, it was why are we continuously going back to a character that we know dies and has died multiple times, and we keep trying to find slivers of time. Ooh, we haven't told a story about this 7 minutes of Darth Maul's life.
He's becoming the Loki of Star Wars.
It's becoming the Loki of Star Wars. But everything is prequel. Prequel. It's like we already know where everything goes, so I wasn't really interested in it. Now, a lot of you guys told me, John, Maul's really good. You got to make sure you check it out. And I knew they were dropping its finale today, so I decided to get caught up on it, and I've now watched the entire series. And I will say this. My God, it's awesome. It's so good. I'll say this right now. I usually like to marinate on something for a while until I put it in place of like all-time ranks or whatever. This is the best Star Wars animated thing ever. And I include Rebels in that. Rebels was my favorite Star Wars.
Why do you think that is?
Okay, well, that gets into the meat of it, right? Of this thing. What I expected them to do with Maul is just, there's Maul. Look at Maul doing all this cool stuff. But they didn't.
Molly.
But they didn't. They decided, let's make a truly good show. First priority, let's make a good show. That includes not just Maul cutting people in half. Let's have a bunch of secondary characters. Let's have some subplot lines going through. Let's give depth to all these other characters. Let's make this world feel lived in. It actually legitimately feels like it wasn't just, let's highlight Darth Maul because everybody thinks Darth Maul's cool.
Yeah, he is.
He is. He very much is. And that's why he dies all the time. But they gave like the characters, like the police captain on this world, how it ties into the underworld, Maul seeking revenge, the larger problem that the Empire doesn't like that Maul's still out there. The whole thing about Inquisitors. Jedi Master Dookie. I know his name's Daki, but I can't help but call him Dookie. Jedi Master Dookie. Voiced by the president from 24. Dennis Haysbert? I think that's his name.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, does a great job voicing that Jedi. It was great. The story about his Padawan, Devon, and the fact that Maul has a secondary. That's the thing. Maul, you easily could have just fallen into a quick little, people like Darth Maul, let's make a Darth Maul thing. He's out for revenge, period. But no, even Maul himself had secondary motivations. Yes, he's seeking vengeance. Yes, it's a survival story. But yes, also he has another storyline where he's actually deciding he wants to find himself an apprentice, which is something that was hinted at in Rebels as well. And so everything from taking the best of the lore that surrounds him, introducing really good, interesting story, and then populating it with characters. Even there's a droid character by the name of Two Boots, which is a stupid idea.
Sounds like a cat name.
But it worked. It does sound like a cat name. It works. By the end of the series, I'm like, I like Two Boots. So they do all this and then bring all these diverging storylines all together. And that's the thing, Rob, sometimes we'll talk about, Andor. You brought this up earlier. Andor wasn't just a great Star Wars show. Take the Star Wars-ness out of it. It was a great show.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what they did with Maul. It wasn't just, let's just make a cool thing of Maul doing badass stuff. Let's actually have a really good idea for a show. Let's have a really good idea for a story. Let's populate it with sub-stories and great characters that have some depth. and give them their own journeys as well. And let's have some big, oh my God moments. And then also, yes, let's pepper in the great badass fights, the great badass choreography, all that kind of stuff. And let's make just a really good story. And I felt like that was their goal. And yeah, again, I gotta say, after finishing watching the finale today, and I know they just dropped the final 2 episodes this morning and or late last night, so I'm not going to go into details in case any of you haven't seen it yet. But for me, right away, I can say nothing Star Wars has ever done. I know there's a bunch of Clone Wars apologists out there who are screaming bloody murder at their computer monitors right now. Fair enough. I'm not trying to take away how you feel about it. I'm just expressing how I feel about it. This is so easily the best animated thing Star Wars has ever done. And all I can do is tip my hat to them, say I really, really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And now maybe they'll try to find the next 8-minute segment of Maul's life they haven't covered yet in some prequel. So I don't know if they're going to do a season 2 or not, and I'm not even sure they should do a season 2. But Rob, I am telling you, I think this is the best thing animated wise. I mean, it's not Andor, but it is the best animated thing I think they've ever done. And I loved it. And I was skeptical about this thing the whole way through. I absolutely loved it. Rob, I know you haven't watched the finale yet.
No.
Because it just dropped at midnight last night. But what have you been thinking about Maul Shadowlord so
Well,
far?
I think about what you kind of said. It's that, look, when you're telling any kind of a story, especially when it comes to a franchise IP story, the most important thing is the story itself. You have to understand the IP of it can follow, but you need to tell a story. I mean, forget that Darth Maul is a Star Wars character. You need to give him a universal, mythic storyline that works outside of the Star Wars universe. And then figure out what that's going to be. And you figure out what all the characters are going to be, what the sub-stories are going to be, what the interaction's going to be. And then you bring the Star Wars into it. Because the story itself has to be good. Like, I feel when we've been watching things like the Kenobi series, it's like, well, we have to put Princess Leia in it to make it more Star Wars. Or make it to and you're like, no. That becomes what I like to call fraudulent creation. Because what you're doing there is you are not telling a great story. You are trying to shoehorn other elements of your IP in just to make it more IP heavy. And that never, ever, ever works. Because all of the great IPs throughout history have always been more concerned with telling great stories first because they weren't IPs to begin with. The first Star Wars was just Star Wars. And that should, even though you now have a successful IP, that philosophy should never change. You should never think, well, we have this great IP we have to protect, so we're going to put the IP first. No, put the story first. If you put the IP first, you will always fail. And when I listen to people talk about, like, to bring it up, Star Trek, people think that Star Trek has a thing you have to do. Like, you have to give these speeches, and it has to be this way. No! Star Trek was an anthology series that told different kinds of stories. What did George Lucas look to when he made Star Wars? He looked to Kurosawa. He looked to Joseph Campbell. He did not look to other Star Wars because it didn't exist. And he was able to give you a storyline that used myth and took myth from here and myth from here and mixed it all together into a human story of a boy who hated where he lived. This sucks. My friends are gone. I dream. I look at those two twin setting suns and I hear this French horn in the background. I want to get the hell out of here. And that's where that story began. Because all of us were Luke Skywalker looking at those suns, and we all got it. And if you're not starting telling stories from that perspective, and that's what they did with Maul.
He was essentially Richard Dreyfuss from American Graffiti.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You know?
That was exactly what he was. But you know what? They looked at Maul. Maul himself was barely a character in Phantom Menace. But he was badass. So you know what? You can tell any story with Maul if the story's good. And that's what they realized. This is the perfect example of how to make an IP character work.
Yeah, and by the way, one of my frustrations with Star Wars has been, like you said, you got to put in Princess Leia, you got whatever. They did a little bit of that in Maul, but they did it in a way that absolutely was necessary.
Yes.
And felt like, I'll just let you know, in case, even if you haven't seen the final two thing, this isn't going to give any of the plot away. But Paul Bettany's character from Solo, A Star Wars Story, Dryden Vos, he's in this, but it perfectly makes sense as to why. Like, it would actually, knowing what we know about Maul's past, it would almost seem kind of funny that he wasn't there. You know what I mean? So they do that, like they do frustratingly in other Star Wars stuff, but they do it in a way that was logical and served the story.
Yep.
Rather than the story just serving as a vessel to cram in.
But that's what I mean is that you can do that. That's great IP storytelling. But when you're trying to come up with a story and say, well, we have to add Princess Leia in it. Well, you're like, no, you don't. It does. She doesn't belong there. And in this case, this would have been a character, as we saw in Solo, that in the milieu of Maul, this is a character that might show up. You just have to figure out a reason to justify his appearance. And it makes sense. That's different. That's the reverse of what they've tried to do. Well, it's Star Wars, so we have to put all these things in it. No.
By the way, I'm being told by a bunch of people in the live chat that they've actually already greenlit season 2. So I guess we are getting it. But by the way, I am going to point this out. And this is only for any of you who've already seen the finale. But am I going crazy? I felt like they didn't finish the finale. Because there are a number of shots. Tell me in the live chat, those of you guys who have seen the finale. There are a number of times when they do establishing shots, like wide shots, where it's like, that's just a matte painting. That like it almost feels like something went wrong and they couldn't finish in time. And there were certain scenes where instead of doing the proper animated background of the cityscape or whatever, they literally just put in a concept matte painting. And again, guys in the live chat, let me know if you noticed that too. Somebody's saying that was throughout the season. I never noticed it in throughout the season as I did it at the very end.
The animation I noticed it felt like it had almost like that paintbrush.
But sometimes it felt out of place because it would be in a shot where the paintbrush matte painting feel was the background, but other elements in front of it felt like it was in the regular style. Regardless, who cared? It was great. The damn thing was great. And again, something happens in the final episode that was like, okay, business is about to pick up. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I, again, love the characters, love the story. I love Rob being pleasantly surprised by movies or shows that I'm skeptical about. It's one of my favorite things in all of entertainment. When I go into something that I'm kind of skeptical about, 9 times out of 10, it disappoints, as I expect. But that 1 time out of 10, when it completely shocks the hell out of me, and Maul Shadow Lord completely shocked the hell out of me. I really enjoyed it. And a big thank you to all of you guys who have been writing in over the past month or so saying, John, you should really check out Maul Shadow Lord. I'm glad you did, and I'm glad I did. Anyway, guys, whatever you thought, did you see Maul Shadow Lord? Did you like it? Maybe it wasn't for you. Maybe you didn't think it was all that great, which is totally fair. Whatever you guys think, though, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.